What's going on, 309 and beyond? It's your boy, Big Game Dre of the Chopping It Up Weekly Sports Radio Show, hottest sports radio show in Central Illinois and beyond. We're super excited for you all to tune in with us every Saturday from 12 to 1 on Strictly Hip Hop 90.7 WAZU Peoria. And we got a special guest in the studio, Richwoods head varsity basketball coach, my fraternity brother. Shout out to the bros. Founders Day's in a couple of weeks, so you know we gonna show
Yes,
out.
sir.
My man's William Bobo Smith, Coach Smith. What's going on, brother?
Hey, how we doing, man? I'm happy to be here. Everything's good.
Man, glad to have you here, brother. I know you got a lot on your plate right now, trying to maneuver it all. So I appreciate you carving out a little time to come chop it up with us.
Definitely, anytime, anytime. I appreciate being here. It's a great honor, to be out here and speak with you. And, y'all got a great show that's been going on for a while. So I'm just happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, man. You know, the beauty of it is we love to give everyone their platform. That's what it's about, and sharing it with the P, man. So glad to have you on here, man. So, for the listeners that might be living underneath a rock and they might not know who you are, kind of go ahead and just give them a little background. Who is William Bobo Smith?
Yeah. So basically, when it comes to just me, and I lived all over the city, grew up, born and raised in Peoria, went to college here, really never left. We started, of course, my family started down on the north end. We lived in a tapped home for a long time, moved to the Village Green, up on Columbia Terrace, over to the Pearson Hills, and then we made ourselves out to the Venn Highlands, which led me to where I'm at now. Early on, just a little background story. Most people that know me from way back, I wasn't a basketball player. I think the first time I actually played organized and even on a team was seventh grade. I played baseball from 3 years old all the way through my junior year in high school, actually. So I started playing at Sterling. My seventh grade year was my first taste of organized basketball. We won the city championship back then. We ended up beating Tree Wind down at Tree Wind for that. It's still up on the board there in that 91 championship. Still got the banner at Sterling. That's when we was the Redskins. Uh, so that's kind of like what got me there. And then I went to Richwoods. I didn't play my freshman year in high school, but from that point on, I dressed varsity, started sophomore, and played the rest of my career at Richwoods, and then transitioned on to ICC, and then end up finishing out my schooling at Bradley. So that's kind of like the path I took to get there, and just coming through using sports as an avenue to get school paid for and get to the things I wanted to do. And the way I got the job at Richwoods was pretty much it wasn't luck. I mean, it was one of those things. I knew Coach Ellis from his days. He was a assistant coach. He started my junior year in high school, and I was still come back to the gym. I was staying in shape, playing with the guys a lot, and he just asked me, if I ever thought about coaching. I think I was 24 at the time, and I told him, nah. I was still out there playing. I was still, Gus Mackering it up, playing in men's leagues, so forth and so on. And then he kept asking me because I was just coming there to stay sharp. Um, and then I finally said, yeah, I give it a shot. And that was the 2006, 2007 season was my first official season as a basketball coach at Richwoods. And that was the year we got the super sectionals with Bill Cole and Justin Dame and that crew, Nick Morgan, name a few, James Robertson.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been pretty much lights out since, man. I did my tour of duty for 5 years as freshman head coach, then sophomore head coach, and then when Coach Ellis left, I got the nod to go up to the varsity head coach, and I've been there now. This is my 11th season as a
Wow.
varsity head coach. So I started first. I was 30 when I got the job. I started coaching when I was 25. So I've been around for a while.
Wow, no, that's awesome. And I remember I was class of '07 at Richwoods, and I remember
Yes, sir.
you and Dave Ruse and y'all would come back and put the work on us. And
Yeah.
and I remember we played y'all on a Gus Macker in Springfield, me and Lawrence and Courtney Smith and Christian Nicolopoulos, and we got that work. Y'all was,
Oh, yeah,
I
good
think I was
times.
Team Batman or something.
Yep.
Yeah,
Bruce Wayne.
yeah. So I know about that
Definitely.
work, man. So no, that's awesome. So yeah, you've had a great path. You paid your dues. Obviously going from a hooper to now a head coach, and I know that definitely pays its dividends because you can give. Not only can you demand the respect of your players, but you can provide that relatability because you've been there and you've played at the high level. And now you're back at your alma mater, which is a blessing. So we all know that coaching, is tough. Especially you're coaching at a historical program like Richwoods that's had major success. Talk about how is it different now coaching, today's player, the 2020 player versus when you first got the job in 06, 07, because that I know just even though it might seem 10, 15 years, but those are two different types of players. So how are you having to adapt your coaching style?
The interesting thing, it goes in cycles. When I first started coaching, and I'm just going to talk about the Richwoods culture in itself because it's different at every high school, and we know that, and that's what separates us, and that's what makes our city so great when it comes to basketball. But the Richwoods culture alone, when I first started, we had what we called, it's crazy that, and people know what I'm saying. At that time, when I first started coaching, it was a lot of two-parent households. Um, and with a two-parent household, you can coach a kid a lot harder uh, than you can when it's and this is just Richwoods in itself. You can coach a kid a lot harder because they're used to a male figure getting on them and demanding certain things out of them, and then being able to put that extra work in. And then we started transitioning a little bit to more of the single parent household was a little bit different. So I won't say the kids were coddled because that'll be taken from them. It's just you had to relate to them differently. You had to come down to their level. You couldn't because they came up with so much mistrust for male individuals. So that the yelling and basically I was never a Bobby Knight type of guy, but that Bobby Knight style didn't work with that generation, with this new generation. You got to be more, hands on at their level, and this and then take retract back. But the older generation just did it. If you told them to go run and jump up the wall 7 times, they would do it with no question. Now we're in an age and an era of everything's questioned. So if you tell them to go run up and jump that wall 7 times, they want to know why they got to jump up the wall 7 times. And that comes from they play a lot more organized ball, such as AAU. They play a lot of club ball. So they're exposed to a different type of basketball versus that grit basketball that we all came up on playing in the parks, playing in the alleys with rocks and things of that nature, playing on a milk crate. So they don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So the creativity, they want to know the reason why. They want more of the fashionable part of basketball nowadays versus that grit and that grind. But we're starting to see a transition back. And I thought that Manual team 2 years ago, the Notre Dame team last year, I think you're starting to see it come back around where these kids got true grit, true grime, and they battle. They battle it out all day long. They go hard, and they go hard at everybody. They're not scared of anything. So we're starting to come back around to the old ways, to where you can get on them a lot harder. But we're also starting to see that finally that fold of the two-parent household again, and it does pay dividends when it comes to coaching, because you can get that trust factor a lot earlier. It doesn't take as much culpability to do so, if that makes sense.
No, that's a great point and great context. How a kid is raised if they're not used to maybe having that male figure or authoritative male figure in the household. They could have trust issues, and so I definitely understand where that is because I know when we were coming up, we would get told to run. We would get ran to death. We didn't ask no questions. You wouldn't tell your
Just
mom. You
go.
wouldn't tell your dad. You just did it. And like you said, you made a good point when you talk about because they play so much organized basketball now. With us, first off, if only the good players played AAU. First off, first
Exactly.
off, just because you had $800 don't mean you playing AAU. And then secondly, the only time we really played organized ball was at more of a maybe an open gym, or once we actually got on the school team, then we were able to play organized ball. But outside of that, though, it wasn't no pickup games with referees there and all this
No,
simulation
sir.
and training and did all this. You just hooped. You was at Proctor, you was at the Salvation Army, you was at the Y downtown, you was that's just what it was. You know what I mean? And times have changed, but to your point, though, I think that we are seeing that grit come back. Notre Dame had a really good team last year, Manual a couple years ago, making it to state as well too. And so I think we definitely are seeing that come back. So let's go ahead and talk about last year. So last year, you're getting ready, you're getting your guys going. You all are doing pretty solid, and next thing you know, a little thing called COVID-19 comes and shakes not only Peoria but the world in itself. Talk about the communication that you were getting. At first, you were like, okay, maybe we'll take a week or two off. But when did you realize, like, oh wow, this is about to cancel our season and we about to be done?
So I knew, like, for us, it came, last year when they shut down March 13th last year. We had just lost to Galesburg the week before. We lost to them on like March 7th or 8th. And the crazy thing about it, so our season was actually done, but like you said, we started the prep for the next generation, the next class. So we knew, I knew it was serious on that Wednesday when they said they had to make an announcement about the Friday sectional championship game. And but at this point, if I remember correctly, the NBA was already leaning towards that shutdown. We started seeing, people closing, things getting shut down, the stay-at-home orders happening. But our whole plan was on the 16th, we were back in the gym in the weight room because that was our plan, progress date. We weren't going to take our customary month off. We knew we had a young group, a really young, talented group. So we wanted to start molding them and getting them ready for the next season. So they told us, and just like everybody else, I actually found out that day, Thursday the 12th, after work, that we weren't coming back. And at that point, you just don't know how to process what that is. None of us have lived through this. We never knew what a government shutdown looked like with this pandemic or anything like that. So of course your brain races. But for my guys, it was more or less, what are we going to do next? And what are we going to tell these guys to stay focused? But our first focus as a coaching staff, once I got that on the 13th, we had a conference call with each other, and it was about keeping our boys engaged in school. Because that, to me, that's the biggest key when you come out of something like this. And that's before the government even set its rules for how school would work, is you wanted them to make sure they stayed tuned in to what had to be done. And also, right at that same time, we had spring break coming up like a week later. So we knew we had time, but we had to get guys' minds in the right place. And that was the biggest thing. But I knew it was serious when they shut down the sectional finals. And they shut them down across the state. And I was like, wow, this is for real. When you start taking money revenue away, then the NCAA closed down. And I was like, yeah, it's over with. Like, if NCAA ain't playing, nobody's playing. But we all, just like everybody else, we didn't know. We thought we'd be all back up and running by mid-April. And then we get the stay-at-home order again until April 30th. I'm like, okay, now we just wonder if we're going to be able to finish school. So at this point, you're trying to get guys engaged, making sure you're checking grades from home, you're making phone calls, because we have no contact at this point besides phones. And you're checking on their well-being, checking their grades, checking up on them, make sure they're getting stuff done. So we actually started as my assistant coach, Coach Taylor, started issuing out challenges where he would, send out like a workout, just an at-home workout, whether, hey, drop down, do 200 push-ups right now, do 50 body squats. So that became like our starting point to get us going and getting us charged up. And then we started working out, me as I'm saying, in the coaching staff in May. So we kept putting these challenges forward, like, okay, we're going to get the release to go in June. So we got to start preparing our bodies mentally and physically if they let us play in June for our regular summer regimen goes. And then we get another stay-at-home order till May 30th. So that says, you know what, and we've been hosting, we host one of the biggest high school shootouts in the state. We've been doing that for 20, I think I was going on year 23, and I've been running it for the last 12 years. So I was like, okay, now this is going to be big, because if we get our tournament off, then we'll be okay. It'll say something, and then all of a sudden, no, sir, they come out with all the restrictions for the COVID. And at this point, you can only be outdoors. You can work out, but it can only be strength training, no sharing of equipment. So we was like, all right. Then we came up with that plan. So we actually started doing June 1st, if I'm not mistaken. We started doing agility workouts with our boys outside on the track. Hottest part of the day at that too, at 3:00. We just got our new. We just got a brand new.
Y'all ain't football players. Y'all basketball players. Y'all ain't about that life.
We out there at 3:00 on a brand new black topped out track, black new cinders out there. So it was hot. And so now we like, okay, let's prepare. They might let us release us in July where we'll still be able to play. So for the whole time in June, we just working out. We switching up. We doing everything. We got them out on the track doing hurdles, stairs, sprint work, cone work. We even switched it up a little bit, went down to Bradley Park, did some sand workouts. We did some grass workouts, things without shoes on, just trying to keep them engaged. So what we really did was we started to build that fight in them, that competitive nature, because if you want to win every sprint, you're definitely going to want to win when the score counts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's what we did all through June. And then we got the okay to be able to have contact, which means we got to play. So we got to play for, it was just funny, we only got to play for a week. It was the week right before 4th of July. So we got to play that week, no mask. We got to be in a gym. So of course we feel we loving it, because now we're seeing the other part of the competitive nature break out of them, and we get shut down again to no contact, individual drills. So then we just start doing skills and drills is what we call it, where we start building up shot repertoires, ball handling skills, just anything that you do personal effect with one ball. And that's where we're fortunate enough. I'm not sure about every school, but our program alone, it's been like this for a while. Every kid on our team has an individual basketball um, number and assigned to them. So when it came to that part, we knew we had a luxury. We got 2 gyms, we got 12 rims, um, and we can definitely still get some work done. So we did that all the way through July, first part of August. Then we got the mandatory shutdown again in August from the IHSA. And then so we started back up September 1st. And so September through till pretty much now, we've been lifting 4 days a week. We were shooting. When we were allowed to, we were playing. So we've been putting the work in. We've been grinding for about 13 weeks to get us to the point we're at now, kind of leading us into the next point. And then we get the call 2 weeks ago. Well, for us, it was 2 weeks ago. I had a kid test positive for the coronavirus. Um, so that shut us down for 10 days. So we knew, and at that point that we were shut down, then we start issuing the challenges again to the players. Um, and then we got this call about, the school district. Um, well, let's take that back. Prisker makes the call and calls us a high risk sport. Um, and then IHSA comes out and said they're not going to follow the protocol this time. But the school district, every earnest comes on every school district to what they want to do and how they want to actually proceed. And then our school board.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough right there. That's tough right there.
And you know what? I thought, it was a lot that went into that decision both ways.
Yeah.
But you can't backpedal, and you kind of, and I knew at that point when Prisker put his order out, and then he put the stipulations on it, that it was going to be tough for any school district that relies on any kind of government funding to
Oh
go
yeah.
against that order. So then our school board had to make that decision on Monday, and I kind of felt it coming that way anyway. I didn't think it was going to be uh, because I guess I knew what was going to happen. The thing that that bothers you a little bit is there's no redetermining date. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. When are we going to start back up? Just give us a date that just dangle it in front of us. Whether it be February 1st, you might have a season, whatever. But right now it's just maybe April, and that's the hardest part because just to backtrack a little bit. As a coach's staff, you start preparing your guys. It's kind of like, when we come back to school, it's like training camp. And you start ramping the guys up to get ready for their first day, which actually would be Monday as our first day of practice. So you start, every program is built that way. You start programming them, getting their bodies ready, getting them mentally, physically in shape to get ready to go full go on that first day of practice. So you start ramping it up. You start scaling up, whether you start doing a little bit of extra running here and there, or putting more concepts in as you go along. And then all of a sudden you got to hit the pause button. And that's kind of where we're at now. It's like, what's next? I mean, you can't, it's like having a brand new car. I mean, you can't run that engine on 5 the whole time. At some point you got to cut it back and, and dial it down a little bit so the body stays together. And that's where we're at now, just trying to figure out what's going to happen going forward.
And I see it tough too, because now if you start up in April, there's other sports have been pushed back. In
Mm-hmm.
high school, guys play multiple sports and young women play multiple sports. So now if you are a football player and a basketball player and they run into each other, or track, or, any other type of sport that might have got pushed back, that's tough. You got to make a hard decision there. So that makes it
Definitely.
pretty tough on you all as well. trying to make that happen. And then I definitely understand it's a lot of tough decisions. I mean, and I got, fraternity brothers on both sides. We got brothers on the school board. We got brothers
Definitely.
coaching, you know what I mean?
Yes,
And,
sir.
so I understand it's a lot that goes into it. I knew, I knew once the IHSA, which, I get it, they are a governing body and they want their athletes to play. I understand that. But once I saw that the pivot was put on the school districts, I was like, oh, it's a wrap.
It's over. Yeah.
It's a wrap, because when that money get funny, ain't nobody smiling.
Exactly. Ain't nobody playing. And that was the thing. I mean, it's a liability issue. There's so many other
Yep.
things involved. And I always tell them, I just actually talked to a board member the other day, came and spoke to me. I've also talked to Dr. Karate a couple times. This earnest it's not about them. And I told him this has nothing to do with sports in itself. And because everybody says they just want to see basketball. And I thought, to me, I just want to be able to play. If I'm able to play, I want my guys to be safe.
Yeah.
I was one of the first people on an IBCA call a couple months ago that said if we had to play with the mask on, I'd rather not play. Because what are you going to get out of that? And that was my whole thing is if we're going to play, let's be safe and play. But it has to make sense. We all got to be logical in this whole situation. If kids aren't in school because it's not safe, what makes you think we're going to be able to get on a basketball court and play and say
Yeah.
it's safe?
Yeah.
So I knew that, and I knew it was a tough decision for them that they had to make, and they had to determine when it came to that. And I knew, like you said, when they put that on the school board, I was like, yeah, it's not going to happen. It was unfair the way it all shook out. I thought that it was kind of like at the beginning, IHSA didn't want anything to do with this decision. So they gave it to the governor. And now when it comes to this time, they say, hey, we want to take the decision back, and it wasn't going to work. But I wanted to speak on that part about the dual athletes and athletes playing multiple sports. The breakdown is such as if we were able to go and what they call the spring season, which is February to May. It's only two other sports going at that time. One of them being football, and I want to say the other one is like swimming, boys swimming. And I know that's been a topic of talk as well. Trying to slide basketball into that slide, it would give us, I think, roughly like 8 weeks, and we would have enough to get in about 20 games possible. If they did that, I don't see that happening either. I just want to throw that out there. But if they try to push it back into what they call the new summer season, it's 7 other sports going.
Yeah.
And if I'm a crossover athlete, yes, you're going to lose some kids because at that point, as a coach, as a human being, you want that kid to pick the sport that they have the best chance in furthering themselves in, as far as education wise and going to the next level. If you're a great baseball player and you're just an average basketball player, I would tell you to go play baseball.
Yep.
And that's just the truth of the fact. And at some point, I mean, it's going to be that no matter what we do, if they decide to do that, kids are going to have to choose. Parents are going to have to make choices. And of course, at that point, when it comes up, just because of what humans do, people will be upset and say why they can't play multiple sports. And you wouldn't want to put a kid's body through that, where they got to go run in a track meet and then try to have a game the next day. It wouldn't be worth it.
Be on a Deion Sanders in high school.
Yeah, and that's it. Is what we got. Has it been 3 athletes ever do that on a
Yeah.
professional level?
Yeah.
Deion, Bo, and
Yeah.
I think at one time Charlie Ward did it in college
Yeah.
at Florida State.
Yep. Charlie Ward did definitely. So
Yeah.
let me ask you this question. So you talked about, players having to make decisions and parents having to make decisions. Right now, this week, we are seeing notable players making decisions and transferring out of state to play. To keep their hoop dreams alive. We saw that in football. We had a couple of football players transfer from, specifically from Richwoods. Pastor Hubbard's son,
Yep.
Dawson, transferred to Arizona. Shout out to him. He's out there doing his thing. I actually saw his team on TV a couple of
Doing
weeks
well.
ago. I was like, well, it looks like you made a good decision.
A great choice.
Shout out to you, young man. But now the Reynolds brothers from Notre Dame, who I believe the oldest was the Journal Star Player of the Year, has
hmm
Division I aspirations. He's transferring along with his brother as well to the Indiana. What are your thoughts on that? As far as, do you think that's the right choice? Is Is it situational? I mean, you know, is it just kind of putting a Band-Aid on a situation? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I think I've been open about this. I actually talked to Dan Walther, a board member, about this yesterday. He brought it up too. I say if you're a senior and you have an opportunity to be able to and when I say a senior, you can't just be any senior. If you got to be a senior starter, I would say that.
Yeah.
uh,
No, you can't be a 12th man on the bench waving the
right,
towel. Hey, man, I'm going to prep school in Ohio. Let's get it. We go.
right. Um, but yeah, if like you're a starter and you have some division, not even you got any looks. I wouldn't even say Division One. Division One
Yeah.
is great, but if you got any looks, I
Yeah.
would say at this point you have to go.
Yeah.
If you have the means and the ability to transfer and go somewhere and play out your senior year, for sure, you take the for sure route. I would say if you're a junior, I would wait it out. Only because you have another year left, and that's a big financial burden to try to put on a single family, and that's a family taking a risk on you, of course, to be able to pick up and move. Because once you transfer, it's not that easy just to transfer back
Yeah.
and be able to get your eligibility right back. So that's a lot of it too. But if you're a senior, I'm all for it. I got why Noah did that. He needs his senior season to
Yeah.
get, he's a good ball player. He's a great ball player. But he needs to showcase what he can do for another season to erase anybody that has questions about his ability to be able to play at the next level, which is Division One for him. So he needed his senior season. And Nelson's a good ball player, his younger brother, but you can't send one without the other. So, and like you said, it's situational. Some families can do that and they can maintain that for the last two. If I'm not mistaken, I think they might have one younger sibling, but I think that's it for them. So for them to pick up and go for a couple years is not, it's not going to be the end of the bucket for them. Some families can't do that. Like my family, if I was a senior, my family wouldn't be able to do something
Oh
like that.
no,
I would,
no, bro. You just
yeah.
in the P. I'm sorry. Hey, my mom. I'm sorry, baby, but
Yeah. We're
I'm
going to
sorry.
have to go to the Y and tape yourself playing against your friends. Send that out.
Put that on that YouTube. Put that on that YouTube. Hey, boy.
Exactly.
But shout out to them though.
Definitely. And like you said, like we had some football players like Dawson, also in a great situation. He goes to a top program in the nation.
Yeah.
And that's an opportunity that presented itself. Even if we didn't have the COVID, if that opportunity presented itself, I'm pretty sure the Hubbards would have still made the same choice because it's the right choice when you're putting your kids first in their dreams. So no, I don't have any feeling which way or other about that. Man. I think at this time, what we're going through, that's a family's choice, and it's strictly a family choice. And it sucks for Notre Dame because they were going to be a good team again this year.
Yeah.
With a great freshman class coming in, and the seniors that they still got a pair of seniors over there now, senior brothers, the Williams brothers. Surprised they haven't tried to make a move yet. But you got that. I mean, it's tough to say, hey, wait around for this. We don't know what's going to happen because it's been so uncertain for the last 9 months. So I definitely get why seniors are up and leaving. But you got to make sure you got to make the right choice though. You can't just, like you said, you can't just go somewhere just to go. If you're the 12th man, hey, get your education, man. That's what you was gonna do anyway.
Transfer and be on the pond, be in Indiana or be in Ohio on the pond.
Ohio, right? Might not even make the team.
You know what I'm saying? Hey, because you ain't got the same juice here. Has there been
Exactly.
so what we saw in the NBA, they did the bubble. And a lot of sports that didn't do the bubble. The NFL kind of seems like they're kind of figured it out with the rapid testing. Baseball was getting hit hard, but then they kind of figured it out as well too. Was there ever any type of crazy innovative talk of maybe doing like a Peoria area bubble or something where like, you know, the Middle Illini and the mid-state teams,
I'm glad you said that.
is it the mid-state 9 now? I know it's changed over time. Has there ever been talk of doing that just to kind of keep the dream alive?
So no, we did. I was on the phone. I'm okay with a couple of the Mid Illini coaches. Actually, good friends with Washington coach Eric Schimmerhorn. And we were in the talks before any of this happened, like before the district made their call. And we had talked about, and I've been talking about it for a while. I'm not going to use your show as a platform, of course, but I don't know why the Mid Illini and the Peoria schools aren't one conference. They have 8 teams. We have 4. we can be whatever you want to, something 12, instead of us being in the Big 12 where we're traveling to Champaign and Danville and Bloomington. But to get back to what you're saying, we did discuss possibly us playing against them and creating two leagues. So basically like an East and West type of deal, 6 on one side, 6 on the other. We would all play each other once. That would give us 11 games, and then play within our own circle twice, and that would give us 18, and then possibly have a tournament at the end, which would be fulfilling because it's for our area. At this point, this is what we're talking about: area sports, area basketball. Great traditions would come back, and you were around at this time. I remember playing the Peakins. Pekin was in our conference at one time. You go to Pekin, the gym was packed.
And they had some good players too.
Yeah, they had some great ones. From Matt Moran, Jeremy Crouch, just name a few of them. Todd Lichtenberg. But you go over there and it's 4,000 fans, and then they come to Richwoods and they do the same thing. It was for a long time. You couldn't go to a game in Peoria and get there late and think you were going to get a seat that was down at the bottom. You were going to be upstairs, probably standing by a window.
You had to pull up if you didn't go to the JV game, you didn't.
You had to be there by third quarter. If you weren't by the third quarter, you weren't making it.
You weren't gonna make it.
And that I always, I've been fighting for that for probably the last 8 years to bring that back, because I think you lose a little bit when you can't see those rivalries, and you hear about the good teams. But back to your point, like I said, I won't get on that. It has been talks of that, but the difference between us and these others, we have rapid tests now in Peoria, of course, for District 150 since we got that donation. But the issue is not us, and it's okay. We have a season, we have rapid testing, but some of these other places don't. So all of a sudden, like I say, like one of my kids, they get the coronavirus, rapid test them, but with the state rules that we have to follow, you got to shut down for 10. And that's you shut down for 10. That means you can't practice for 10 days. You can't play. So in essence, you miss 5 games. And if you only got a 22 game season, now you're down to 17. And if that happens twice, are we really going to risk it for 12 games? And I think that's the bigger point that's being missed in all of this, because we won't be able to have a regular season. If we were able to have our regular season, go to tournaments, and if you test, and that's different because that's a 30 game season over 5 months versus trying to condense that into 6-10 weeks and trying to do it that way is just going to be really difficult. And the bubble thing was too expensive. So what we had thought of as possibly, hey, we keep our teams together because our boys are practicing and everything now. They were at that time. And we create basically this Mid-Illini Peoria thing and put us all together. So on every Friday, you would have games starting at 10 o'clock and they would go until 8 o'clock. Essentially every team playing that same day, and then boom, for the rest of that week, you go back to your bubble. So if anybody comes down sick, you can do the rapid testing. You get your whole team tested, and hopefully you keep 90% of your program able to play for the next following Friday, if that makes sense. So that was talked about, but it was kind of just talked about. And that was before Pritzker made his new ruling. And now school districts are like, okay, what's the liability issue? Because you still don't escape that if you put them in a bubble. You don't escape the liability even if you sign a waiver. And that's the bigger point.
Nobody ain't trying to be sued. Yeah, I mean, that's the American come up. Ain't nobody trying to be sued.
And that's it. And a lot of people say, I'll sign it. And a lot of parents will sign a waiver for their kid to play.
Yeah.
But that's not the issue. As I was told, it's not the issue of your kid getting sick. It's the issue of your kid getting sick and then grandma getting it and grandma passes away.
Yeah.
Well, grandma didn't sign a waiver. So guess what?
Yeah.
Grandma
we still didn't sign the waiver. And one thing too, because I talk to people, and they are, you have some people who are super against, wearing of the mask, and it's a 99% survival rate, and which is true. But the issue is when you do contract it, most people do have to get some type of medical attention. It's not something that you can. Some people are healthy enough to just stay at the crib and fight it off their own with some Tums and some ginger ale or whatever, like the old school, and they cool. But a lot of people
sweat it out.
Yes, a lot of people have to still go to the hospital and get an antibiotic and stuff too. So the issue is the hospital system is being overwhelmed, because they bring it in they B and C squad because you got people who are there's staff who are getting exposed, as
Yeah,
well too. So now they got to quarantine for 10 days. And so they're over here bringing everybody off the bench to try to, make they shifts. If you got friends and family in healthcare, it's real right now.
definitely. And that's the thing. Like you say, I mean, everybody it's bigger than this basketball bouncing. Um, and we all just want to definitely be safe. And I say, like, let's get back to the first point. Like, if we're gonna play, it's got to be safe. It's got to be realistic. And like I said, all those examples, I don't want anybody getting sick. I don't want anybody to have to go to the hospital, especially for this. And this is just a small part of our life scheme and what we want to do in the future. And if we gotta wait, I'd rather wait and be safe than try to jump out there uncertain. And yeah, it's people, all the conspiracies. Yeah, it's got a high rate of, it's got a low rate of mortality now. Um, but who wants it? Like, nobody wants to get sick. Every year, nobody wants the flu. It happens, but you
Yeah.
don't want to get it. And you
Yep.
definitely don't dance around and say, let me catch the flu.
Yeah.
Um, and it's kind of, I say that, and I back all the scientists because I don't know. I'm not a
Yeah.
scientist. Uh,
Right.
and I tell people, I mean, if they shutting down states, they shutting down industries, there's something about this virus that we just don't know. Um,
We just don't know about it, and it's
and
like,
that's it.
who would fly an airline that says we land 99% of our planes.
Right. Yep. That's
99% of our plane. Like, nah, bro, I don't, that 1%, that 1%
might be me.
that 1% is real. So, it's definitely a lot of tough decisions that are being made. I would love to see that. I would have loved to see that Peoria Mid-Illini bubble. Hey, the Civic Center, it's big enough.
That's
Hey, let's have the kids stay there. Let's create a
uh,
campus. You know what I mean? Inside, let's
we
have the
got to get
food. Let's have the
classrooms.
classrooms. Hey, if we start, hey, listen, we need to start thinking ahead. Hey, we might have just
Definitely.
came up with the solution right here. Peoria Mid-Illini bubble campus at the
It
Peoria
would
Civic Center.
it would be, I'm telling, it would be, and we all stay at the Marriott on different floors,
Yeah,
or what, the old pier.
it'd be
Um,
crazy. It'd be
it would be,
crazy.
and people would love it. It would be a great thing. I say that for sure. It would definitely give the community some hope, but
Stream
ain't nobody
stream the
putting that money
games.
up.
Oh yeah. That's a what we just said is a $20 million venture, because you got to
Exactly.
have a
And
rapid testing, you got to feed them, you got to clothe them, you
oh,
got to
that's
pay
it.
the utilities, you got to pay the staff, you got to yeah. Actually, we need about 30 M's,
Yeah,
but
yeah. We need a lot. We need a real high injection
yeah,
of funding. But yeah, it would definitely be fun. And if you're not this year, I think it's opening up
yeah,
uh the possibility of next, because I think now everybody's starting to think local.
yeah,
What could happen for us locally? And that's on every front, from businesses
yeah.
to schools, and it's all about, now everybody wants to see the local come back. And I
Hmm.
think if we get that, we can get one lesson out of this whole pandemic. It'll be that, protect local, be local, stay local, spend local, and be local. Um, and we'll get that. I mean, and it'll be fun. I don't care. I would love to go watch a volleyball game. The Richwoods girls against the Morton girls would be a great thing, just to see that on a continual basis.
Yeah,
Uh, and I think, we all talk about sports. We grew up with it,
yep,
and we know it. I mean, and your positions where you at too. I mean, the amount of money that's being lost right now because of the multiple hands that are grabbing in and not really thinking about community is starting to bring it down a little bit too.
hmm,
Um, and that's the crazy part. Like you said, that's 10, 15 years ago. It was completely different,
yep,
than what we're seeing now. So hopefully if we get some out this pandemic, let it be that, man. Let's bring it back local. Let's get, Friday night hoops like it used to be.
yep.
Every now and again, let's get down to, now it ain't the field house no more, but get a couple Friday night games down there at the Renaissance,
Yeah, let's go.
and
Because you never know what you got till it's gone.
we talk about the field house. That was a beautiful place, man. That was Peoria basketball. Everybody remembers the old Manual Central games at the field house.
Oh man,
Uh,
and the floor
you
would be
know,
raised up.
yes, sir. And you had to have your best outfit on just to be in the
You
crowd.
had to. You had to.
That's and
You know who
and
you gonna see on the way to the concession stand. You just
at all. It's just beautiful, man. That was at the time. I mean, Peoria basketball was at its height. I mean, we had so many professional athletes come out at that time. It's
yeah,
just, we took it for granted. I mean, and you finish with one. I mean, share, who knows what you're seeing out there at that
Yeah.
time. Football, we produced a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And that's across, I'm not just talking Peoria, I'm talking about across this whole central state.
Yeah.
And we don't get to see that now because of how we spread out and everybody's worried about just their own personal. So let's
Hmm.
bring it back local, man. Let's see it flourish again.
Hey, I love it, man. That 309 pride, man. We gotta have it. Whether don't matter which side of the river you on, which side. Don't matter if you're on the south, the north, the
North,
hill,
man.
out by Richwoods. It don't matter. It's all 309, and we gotta have that pride. And that's what we gonna need if we trying to when we get on the other side of this, because we will get on the other side of this. But
Definitely.
we're gonna need to be very strategic and mobilize and organize around each other in order for us to not let this period of time define us. You know what I mean?
It-
Because in 10 years we'll say, hey, we got through this, or in 10 years we'll say we didn't make the decisions that we needed to make,
yep.
and yeah, then
And
you'll have to make a decision if you're gonna still live here or not.
definitely, and you're 100% on board, man. Like I say, like you said, like we gotta be ready, and it's about now. It's the preparation for what's next, um, all the way around. Like this is a great community, and we just all want to push forward. Like you said, that's that old pride in Peoria. We have it. It's just got to be brought back out. So, um, and guys like out there, our future mayor coming up soon, and Mr. Allen.
Maybe
Please go
one
out there
day.
and
Maybe
hey,
one
hey, we
day.
got to get out there and push that vote. You got to be District 4 councilman for sure.
Hey, I
Um,
appreciate it, man.
and that's where it starts at, man. And people in the right position that's got the right mindset to bring the community back and all. Um, it's just what it's really about, And like I said, to kind of revert back, like the school board has done a great, tremendous job. As much flack as they've gotten where this pandemic, when you look around the region, Peoria has done really well as far as our kids being able to go back to school and not a whole lot of them being called out, classrooms being quarantined.
Hmm.
Um, so it's all for Peoria in itself has always been about our kids and our education system, and it's doing well. I mean, I'm speaking as a parent, a teacher, and a coach.
Yeah.
Um, as much as we complain about it, it's been the right moves strategically. I'm gonna continue to trust them because they're putting us in the right positions. They're keeping us safe and healthy to be able to do our jobs. Our kids to get good learning. It's different, so yeah, we're gonna have complaints because it's the first time for everything.
Yep.
And anytime you put out a first generation of something, you're gonna complain about it, whether it be the iPhone or the VCR.
Yep.
Somebody ain't gonna like it.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I mean, we'll be back, like you said. It's just keeping my boys right now mentally locked in on them school books
Yeah.
is the case.
Yeah.
Um, education is a key, and that's what we got to focus on right now, and just their mental health. Because some kids do rely on just
They
to
do.
be around a sport, be able to work out, be able to still, and they can do that. They just can't do it in the context at that school.
Yeah.
I also like you said, like it's too cold now, but I won't even say it's too cold. It was nothing to put on a couple coats, a couple layers, and go to somebody's house and shoot till your hands was froze.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
and that's what you're kind of relying on them to do now, but be safe about it. I'm not saying go out there and congregate, but you can still be a part of a team and be with your teammates, even if it's not at Richwoods in the gymnasium. They still should be a community of brothers together because that's what it's all about.
Hmm. No, that's real, man. That's real, man. Well, we definitely going to send positive vibes to you, your staff, your players, the parents, the loved ones who love pulling up to rituals on that Friday night to support their son or their daughter and whatever that sport is. Because I know this is some very trying times. I love playing sports and stuff in high school. I love going to homecoming and vice versa and
Ah,
stunt shows and
exactly.
uh, prom and all that type of stuff, man. And I hope that some of that stuff is being able to happen in the spring. But ultimately, at the end of the day, like you said, brother, it's about just keeping our kids safe. And nothing lasts forever. We will get through this, brother. But I appreciate you hopping on the Chopping It Up Weekly Sports Radio Show, man. Hottest sports radio show in Central Illinois and beyond, man. We have Coach William Bobo Smith in the building. Rich Woods, head varsity coach, brother. Are you on any social media or anything, man? You want to
I
shout
you,
shout your social media out?
hey man, I've been social media naked forever. I am not on social media. at all.
I thought you
So
was off the grid. I thought you was.
yeah, man.
Yeah. Well, you sent me your
That's
picture. You sent me the Google link. I said, "Oh,
that's
this brother's off the
yeah.
grid."
That's all I got for you. My wife got all that stuff, man. She monitors that stuff. So
You say you
nah, no,
live
yeah. So
vicariously through her.
that's it, man. The kids got social media. I don't. I read books.
There
That's
you
it.
go.
So
There you go. If you want to find Coach Smith, you can
just
Google
find me
him
at the.
and shoot his District 150 email.
There you go. That's it. That's how you get in contact. Or find me at the bookstore.
Hey, there it is, man. Well, hey, Coach Smith, we appreciate you, brother, chopping it up with us, man, and best of luck with the rest of the season, brother.
I appreciate you for having me, man. Appreciate it a lot. Thank you.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Well, you all stay tuned. We're gonna get into a little music and we'll close out the show. But we will see you all next Saturday, same time, same channel. Strictly Hip Hop 90.7 WAZU Peoria. We gone.